It's a new article on Live Science by Stephanie Pappas. Tropical tectonic collisions may have unleashed ancient ice ages. Well, we know that because of the volcanic eruptions, the gas and the ash that accumulate into the atmosphere, of course, block out the sun and, of course, change the temperature, lowering the temperature. Now, massive tectonic collisions in the past in the tropics may have caused Earth's last 3 great ice ages. Before each of these ice ages, new research finds collisions between continents and island arcs built long chains of mountains in the tropical latitudes. And these mountains may have set the stage for a cooler climate. As they eroded into the seas, they would have altered the chemistry of the ocean so that it could have absorbed more carbon from the atmosphere. Because atmospheric carbon traps heat, less carbon in the skies translates to colder temperature, allowing ice sheets and glaciers to form there. Now, this could provide a simple tectonic process that explains how Earth goes in and out of glacial periods. The study author was Oliver Jagoutz, professor of geology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he gives a brief history of the ice. During the Phanerozoic era, which spans at least 540 million years, Earth has been ice-free 75% of the time, even at the North and South poles. So can you imagine how warm the whole of the surface area must have been? But the planet has also seen 3 glacial periods, or ice ages, when at least some permanent ice sheets existed. The first was in the late Ordovician period, 455 million to 440 million years ago, when the first jawed fish were busy evolving. The second was the Permo-Carboniferous, that was 335 million to 280 million years ago, the age of the amphibians and weird mammal-like reptiles such as the Dimetrodon. The final ice age is still ongoing. It started about 35 million years ago, when the modern-day Antarctic ice sheets first formed. Smaller glacial advances like the ice age that ended around 11,700 years ago are not the subject of this study. Short advances and retreats of the glaciers occurred because of variations in Earth's orbit that redistributed the sun's warmth. This is what Jagoutz believes and says. The perplexing question is why Earth has icy periods. Period. He says it seems like the climate state the Earth likes to be in is hotter than today, and these glacial periods are unusual, Jagoutz says. And he explains, and if they are unusual, there must be something specific happening. Now, what about this collision and erosion? Jagoutz and his colleagues believe that something specific is the formation of the mountain change in the tropics. At first blush, it might seem strange that tropical mountains could create an ice age, but the atmosphere, oceans, and land are all connected. Continental crust is high in silicate minerals, and when these silicate-heavy rocks erode and dissolve into the oceans, they make the seawater more alkaline or basic. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere dissolves readily in this alkaline seawater. The more alkaline it is, the more carbon the ocean can hold. Right now, presently, the human use of fossil fuels is outpacing the ocean's ability to hold onto carbon. Over the past 200 years, seawater has become 30% more acidic. Millions of years ago, huge mountain building events may have done just the opposite, making the ocean more alkaline. Tropical mountains in particular would have done the job efficiently. The tropics are wet, so erosion happens quickly, and the rocks pushed up by tropical tectonics are rich in easily dissolving magnesium and calcium. The idea that tropical erosion could have influenced the climate was not new, but Jagoutz and his team were the first to gather a database of all the geological records of these major tectonic collisions and compare them to the initiation of ice ages. They found that over the Phanerozoic, the length of active collision area between oceanic and continental plates, called sutures, ranged from 0 to 18,640 miles. that's 30,000 kilometers. Each of the major ice ages was preceded by a peak in the length of these active collisions in the tropics, when the sutures were between 6,214 miles and 8,640 miles long. Every time you had an ice age, you had an increased suture zone length in the tropics, Gazoo says. And this has to do with this geologic timing. The geologic traces these ancient collisions leave behind are called ophiolites, which are oceanic volcanic rocks thrust on top of continental crust. The researchers saw none of these ophiolite extremes in times when Earth was not icy. And it was ophiolites in the tropics, or regions at less than 20 degrees altitude, that seemed to matter for cooling the planet. There are other theories for why Earth has icy periods, Jaku says, namely that volcanic activity varies, pumping more or less carbon into the atmosphere, but the data on the history of volcanism does not always match up with glacial periods, and the volcano theory offers no good explanation for why ice ages should stop as well as start. The tectonic explanation does a good job of that. Once the calcium and magnesium-rich mountain chains either erode completely or move out of the tropics via the continental drift, their effect on the climate fades and Earth returns to its typical balmy state. Jacques and his colleagues have applied for a National Science Foundation grant to further investigate their theory. Whether right or wrong, tropical mountains will not be saving humanity from man-made climate change anytime soon. This mountain-building process occurs over millions of years, he said, and has little to do with the kind of variations that determine whether, for example, Miami is habitable or inundated by rising seas. Some researchers thought that they ponder about geoengineering schemes that would grind down calcium and magnesium-rich rocks and spread them in the tropic oceans, he said, or inject carbon dioxide into similar rocks. Quote, people want to use this naturally occurring process to help with man-made climate change, but there are lots of issues with this, like how do you get this process going on a time scale that is relevant to humans, end quote. That is very difficult, Jaku says. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.